I've been designing apps and websites for 15 years. And along the way, I built up a workflow and process that I really enjoy as a designer. But now with AI tools like Lovable, you can actually design an entire site just from a simple prompt. And so today, for the first time, I'm going to try it out. And what I want to find out is if Lovable is good enough to make me ditch everything that I've learned over the last 15 years and just start using AI to design my apps and websites. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take a design that I've made using Webflow that I spent quite a bit of time trying to perfect. We're then going to go into Lovable and see if we can recreate this design in just a few seconds with a simple prompt. And if we can, you'll see the end result and I'll be impressed. But if we can't, you'll see exactly why I think that traditional design tools are better and why I might not quite switch over to Lovable. So let's see. Let's put Lovable to the test and see if me, as a designer, actually enjoys using AI to design. Let's jump in.
Teaching the world what they need to know. This is your show, the Prompt Show.
Normally, I use Webflow to design my sites, and I've started out by just doing basic layouts like landing pages and kind of simple designs. But over time, I've used Webflow for like designing actual applications. So things like Teeny Tales you see here is an actual application where users can, choose their own options to make a custom story for their kids. And then it generates kind of almost like a PowerPoint presentation type of layout here, right? And then you can click around and change things and, play around with it. And Webflow, I find interesting for that because it gives me a lot of flexibility as a designer to kind of create whatever I want on the canvas. So I kind of have that creative control. But also using things like custom classes in Webflow, like I can add a class to a specific element, and then I can use AI. So I normally use Claude to then give it that class name and get it to write me a script to do something on the page. And now my, design can actually come to life with specific features I might want, which is interesting. But then I've also made kind of simpler things like a recipe site. So you can see there's guiltychef.com where it basically has our recipes listed out, different tabs, ways that you can share it, copy, skip to other pages, nice menus. But again, as a designer, I have creative control. And so I used to, all the way back use, Dreamweaver, even Front Page, way back. Sketch I used for a while, then Figma. I designed a lot of sites in Figma, which I know a lot of people still do. But as soon as I got a hold of Webflow, I loved it because it was the fastest way to go from like an idea in my brain to seeing a real prototype. With Figma, normally I'd have to create something, hand it off to a developer, see what it would look like. And then normally would require a lot of tweaking and adjustments. And I just didn't like that process. I felt the closer I can get to an end result as a designer, the better. And so everything down to like the milliseconds of how an interaction works or how a hover effect works, I would used to write like, these huge Google Docs explaining to developers, how I want the timing to be changed or how I want the hover effect to be. I'd have to give examples from other sites. Headache. So Webflow really solved a lot of that for me. But I know that Lovable has become a tool that is, raved about quite a lot. And I've not used it ever. And the reason I haven't used it is because I think part of it is myself as a designer. I'm so used to the tools that I use and I enjoy those and I feel like they give me a great output. And using a new tool requires you to kind of overcome that learning sort of curve. But also, I think, honestly, part of it, like many of us would have in our industries, we don't want to believe that something might be better or easier. But in the world of AI, that's going to happen. And so Lovable is something that people have been speaking about a lot to create their own apps and sites and design things. And so I'm really curious. I've never used it. I haven't even created an account on it. So you're going to see me as someone who builds things with AI and designs and creates my own products, actually use Lovable for the first time. And you'll see my reaction as I start going through it. And if I actually like it compared to Webflow or more than Webflow, maybe there's a world I'll start using it more. So let's dive straight in. So this is Lovable's site right now. So normally I would just kind of, go through a site and kind of see what's going on here. So there's different examples here, which I do like. Because even when I started using Webflow, I used Made in Webflow quite a lot to look for examples of other sites that people had built on Webflow, which kind of gave me a bit of an insight into what's possible. And I think that's pretty cool. So I think with the fact that Lovable have this sort of community section here, and I actually think Webflow should do this on their homepage. I don't think they do it enough. I think when you go to their homepage, you just see like a landing page. Let's open that up. Yeah, you just see kind of a landing page with just information. Launch. I hate all this jargon type stuff, to be honest. I don't think anyone reads it. I actually love the way that Lovable goes straight into demos. So I think that's really useful. I'm going to click on those in a minute. Actually, that's the entire page, which is really cool. So yeah, they clearly know what they're doing. Like that's what people want. You know, a site like Webflow should be doing that, to be honest, because you don't want to look at everything else. So okay, let's see what kind of stuff is possible here. You can remix, because I suppose that's where you can take a design. I'm going to see how close I can get to creating maybe a recipe site or an app. Let's have a look. What's this over here? Preview. This looks interesting. Okay, this is almost like an application. You can open the project and see it. Okay, interesting. Cool. Dashboards. It seems like you can do pretty cool things on here. All right, let's open up. Let's open up like just a site they've got on here. Discover, internal tools, personal. Let me see. Can I search? Can't search on here. Doesn't seem. Community up here maybe. Or this is a community. All right. Oh, Discord. Okay, fine. Sorry, don't want Discord. Okay, so community, enterprise, learn, shipped. Shipped is a nice tab. So this is things that people have built. Okay. All right, so it's like kind of a Lovable course. All right, so that's what like I suppose the brand sort of things that they've got going on. But in the actual site, let me have a look at something that I might find interesting. What's this? Let's just see what a basic site looks like, just to understand the fundamentals of how it works. It's a bit boring though. What's this? Fundraise hub. Okay, this seems like a normal sort of lander. All right, let me open this up. So let's open the project. I suppose I'm going to have to sign up now. What can I do here? Can I do anything? Appearance, go dashboard, remix. Okay, I suppose I need an account. So let me create an account for the first time now. So let's go to dashboard. I'm going to set up an account. So let's log in. I'll continue with Google. Okay, so where did you hear about us? Tons of friends, actually. So we'll just say friend. We'll be using Lovable for personal project. Cool. What describes you best? Designer. What are you building? So website landing page. All right. So now we're in. Cool. So now can I actually remix something? Let's go back to one of these sites. Where was the one that I just picked? Or somewhere else? All right, let's just pick this one. Doesn't matter. Remix. I wonder what that means. Does that mean like you kind of, it probably duplicates the site? I always like kind of doing that. If there are templates that you can work with when I use a new application, it does sort of help just to see what's possible. And then I just sort of, flow into it myself and mess around with it. Okay, so it's kind of like a cursor type of experience. So you've got a way to talk to it here, and I suppose it will build out as you go, which is pretty cool. I suppose you can deploy from here as well. Okay, there's a different viewports. Oh, okay, that's a bit messy. Let's see if we can fix that in a minute. It might be a good place to start. What's this? Tab, okay. Revisions, code, live preview, okay. GitHub, what's this? Super. All right, cool. So you can like connect your server and your domains, everything. Cool. All right. Publish. Suppose you can connect your own domain as well. Yeah. All right. So let's just see if we can just build something. Let's first of all, let me just see that menu, because that menu was broken. I just wonder if you could just fix this. So, okay, let's see. What's this? Edit. Select to edit or ask Lovable to modify. Okay. Let's do this. So, what's this? Okay. The app encountered an error. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. Refresh maybe? Okay, let's not try to fix. What do I do now? Refresh? Yeah, you want to... I just like it when things just work. Add, history, knowledge, project settings. Name, domains, knowledge. Okay, so you can add your own prompt, Best practices. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I wish Webflow would just have more AI features anyway, because if they had things like this, I think what would be really cool in Webflow is having AI features that just like the same way I use Claude. Like I will, for example, I created this function here at the bottom, these actions. So like the copy ingredients, it's just like a script that allows you to copy the text from the ingredients, right? So I have a custom ID here of ingredients, but I have to go to Claude to tell it that when you hit the button with the ID of copy ingredients, I then want you to find the ingredients div and then copy that content onto the clipboard. So then Claude had to write me a script which I inserted. But if I could do that in Webflow, that would be really cool. So I think like, you know, I just wish Webflow would just like that with AI sometimes, just with the amount of stuff that's possible. And maybe even understand themselves what's possible, because you can do some really cool stuff in here just using AI, but you have to use it separately. So, all right, let's see. So I'm going to say on the mobile menu, I notice it doesn't have a background. So the text is overlaying. No, yeah, text is, yeah, whatever. It doesn't have a background. Add a background. In red and blue with, no, let's just start there. See if we can do something basic. Okay, let's see what we get. Okay, this thing keeps having errors. Maybe it's a template, or is it me? I'm not doing anything. It says working. I'll add a blue background to the mobile menu for better visibility and contrast. Okay, so let's see what it's saying. Yeah, also speed of it will probably be interesting. I suppose with landing pages and building things out, yeah, it is like great just to probably be able to just like AI things together and put them. And I can see why this has value to people maybe just trying to build things out from scratch. Build unsuccessful. So there seems to be some error with the template. But for me as a designer, I'm just like, you know, I like to be in the visual details. I actually get a huge fulfillment out of designing, like actually creating and thinking about it and messing around. And I think like the whole thing I discovered, even as a designer, I've been designing for many years, is you want to just reduce that gap or that margin as much as possible from idea to live product. And so if you can work on that skill set, then I don't think it really matters what tool you're using, because at the end of the day, the idea and the vision and the creativity still comes from within. And it's just about how fast can you get it out and to the type of quality and standard you want. And so I think I've got that pretty down on Webflow right now, but I'm curious what's possible with this as well. All right, so that's annoying me that this one isn't working. So let's just go back and let's just use this thing from scratch. Hold on, I just saw credits there. So how does credits work? One of your daily credits used. 5 free credits daily. What are credits? So public, Here's a private project. So I can't create a project unless I upgrade. So how do I create something? All right, let's see. All right, cool. Let's go. I want to make a recipe. Recipe single listing page. That's it. Let's see what this does. How does this work? Spinning up preview. Okay. Okay. So obviously they've got some sort of like, you know, training model that tells it, you know, what, maybe like some inspiration sites they put in there, some visual elements, probably a lot of code as well, and CSS, JavaScript elements that it's trained upon to know what to expect. And I suppose this isn't too different than asking Claude, Code, or Cursor to actually write something for you, but with a visual element. So let's see what this does. It's actually quite interesting because as I've been building out this kid storybook app, the loading times, because it has to generate the actual pages and visuals, can take a little while. So it's interesting watching a AI tool where you have to sit and wait, because it gives me a good sense actually of what people would expect. So, all right, let's see what it came up with. I like that sound, by the way. That's a cool sound. Let's see what you got, Lovable. Okay, so we got something nice. Classic chocolate chip cookies, soft, chewy, and loaded. All right. That's quite nice as well, that has these little features as well, just to know what you'd want. Reviews, instructions. Okay. So I suppose Supabase is how you'd add a database, right? Yeah, data storage and backend capabilities. Yeah, and in Webflow you just have the CMS itself. Let's see. Create a beautiful recipe page. What's next? Refine, customize, tweak the design, animation, layouts. Must probably use chat mode to plan your project without making edits. Use clear detailing. Okay. If you need to save information, add user accounts, connect those. Super simple way to add these features without complex technical setup. Okay, so let's see. Because I want to get it to. I'm just wondering, like, if I was actually to build out normally myself. This is what's interesting now, because instead of actually designing, I'm thinking about how I'm going to talk to an AI. And I'm wondering, does it actually irritate me as a designer? You know, does it make it like a bit more of a, in UK terms, jarring process, which is annoying process? And I'm not trying to hate, I'm trying to love it. I'm trying to love Lovable. So let's see if we can love it. But I'm also comparing it to my abilities in Webflow. So I'm just wondering, is it more for people that just haven't designed before and want to create something? Maybe. Or is it for people that are already technical and can design and build? Would they shift over to use something like Lovable? At the moment, I'm not getting that vibe, but we've only just on one prompt, so I don't want to be unfair. So let's say, okay, I want to add, I want to create a navbar. I want to create a navbar. I want to create a navbar. Full width with 5 EM padding either side and 1.5 EM padding top and bottom. I want space for a logo on the left, then a browse tab with an arrow which can be hovered over to open. I want this to open in the style of Mobbin, maybe? Mobbin. I like Mobbin's menu. Can we see that menu anywhere? They have this menu design that I really like. I don't think you can see it on here unless you actually get in. But they have a menu design that I do like. So let's see, in the style of Mobbin. I want the menu, I want this drop-down menu to have 3 sections. Let's see, explore, collections and manage. Explore, collections and manage with 3 links inside each of them. You can put placeholder text for now. I want a search bar in the middle. What's this color code I'm using? I'm going to say the primary search bar in the middle. Let's go top. So the primary CTA accent color of the site is, my brand also uses, it's tan, but very rarely. Website background should be white. I want a search bar in the middle with an off-white background that goes slightly lighter when you hover over. Must have a rounded search icon. Must have a rounded search icon. Must have a search icon in a rounded red element to the left of the search bar. This is actually quite tedious to type like this. Like, who designs like this? Gosh, what are we doing here? And a call to action on the right side of the navbar called create recipe with some sort of AI generate themed icon. Man, that was actually quite stressful. I'd be so curious to see how people use Lovable. Is this just part of the learning curve to get over, to do this? I'd be very curious. If you guys are using this, let me know in the comments how you're using it, because it is definitely piquing my curiosity. Like, where do you find the creative, let your creative juices flow? Like, there's something about designing and it feeding. It's a bit like cooking, I suppose. That's a great way of explaining it. Like when I'm cooking, and I love to cook, there's something about the seasoning, the ingredients, the chopping, the making, the putting together that makes the end result enjoyable, right? It's like, yes, you have to work to get the end result, but that's part of the process that adds to how you feel about it, right? And how connected you are to the result and the nuances. And I feel like with designing products, that's how I feel about it as well. Like when I'm building and designing, it kind of gives me that sort of, sensitivity to touch and, drawing out every single element and refining it, slightly changing the borders and everything. And you can do it very quickly, by the way, in these tools. Like I can just click on something here and just change the radius in like a second. You know what I mean? Like it's right here. I can just make that 10 right now, or 1. It's already quite big, but 2 is fine. But I like change the color. I can just color drop it. Like, why would you? This is actually like better than using AI. I think is just to be able to do it like this. Strange. Okay, now it's got an error. What's the error? Create a modern navbar with audio request. What's the error? See, like, what are we doing? See, I don't even know what this means. Look, this is enough for me to just be fed up with it. Like, why? Like, what are we doing here? Let's try to fix it, but it's probably gonna have an error again. Like, you should be able to do this type of stuff. Like, I'm just creating a navbar with 3 elements that I want in it. Mismatch between it. Yeah, see, I don't want to know all this. I don't want to know what errors there are. Like if you're designing and creating something, let's just build it. In terms of some inconsistencies, maybe it needs some sort of like back and forth. But yeah, maybe I can see why if you were one kind of good with design, you might, all right, fine, wow, okay. Oh, that's actually quite good. Haha, it's quite funny. It's like exactly the same as this. Okay. I see. It's not so bad. Interesting. Okay, we can fix that so you can actually hover over it. But it's definitely interesting that you can do that. I'm not mad at that. Let me see it as a full screen experience. Yeah. It's basically exactly the same, just like obviously some dimension size differences, which I would prefer to tweak myself personally, but I can see why you would use this. Some spacing here that you might need to fix. That's fine. 2 free credits remaining today. That's a bit annoying, so I'd probably have to upgrade to use more, but let's see what we can do within this. Okay, so let's see if we can just fix the navbar then. So when hovering over, this feels like, do you know what this feels like? What I explained to you guys earlier with the Google Docs. When I would review a Figma design I was done, so I'd create a Figma site, I give it a Figma design, I give it to a developer, they put it together, and then I'm having to give them feedback in like a Google Doc and having to change it. It feels like that. Of course, that would take a lot longer, and this is much quicker, but that's kind of what this feels like. And I don't enjoy that process. However, I can see why this is meaningful because it gets the result as well, so that is pretty cool. When hovering, so I suppose like having some sort of vision and idea does help. Like if you have a vision and an idea of what you're trying to structure, you can get it to create what you want. When hovering over the browse button, I can't actually access the drop down because it just disappears once I move my cursor from the browse button. Also make the drop down elements vertically listed rather in one column rather than 3 calls. Okay. Browse button should be next to logo on left with a, let's say like a 2 EM margin between them. Next to logo on left. No, next to logo on the right side of it. Okay. Reduce padding left right around CTA button and add some height padding so it matches the height of the search bar. Overall, make the text about 0.9 EM. So the navbar is tighter / smaller. Okay, let's see if we can get to a close result, what we're looking for. Okay, so that's, I suppose, a positive outcome that you can actually give it some sort of like visual idea of what you're trying to create, and it can do it. I don't want to be a Karen about this and, just try and force my mind to accept that Webflow is better. But I can definitely see, even by using this, that probably if you have some sort of design skills, you might find it better to actually create those things yourself if you're able to do it fast enough in a design tool. However, this is a great resource to be able to just build something if you've got a vision anyway. Like, this is pretty solid. Okay, still not letting me hover over the stuff, which is a little bit frustrating, but I'm sure it can fix that. Okay, so let's put things in. Okay, so we can see things like this now. As a designer, I'm looking at this, and in my head, it's a bit like having a paintbrush. Like, I can just go in there, I can just immediately adjust the design, that drop down. Like, I know where I want the spaces, I know where I want the icons. Even the icons, I can go and find them on like, what do I normally use? Icon Scout. Tableau is great. Like, I'll go in Tableau and I can find all the icons I want, and I can just copy the SVG, and just drop it into my Webflow project and have all these icons, like these stuff like this, that I want pretty easily. So I think it gives you a little bit more like creative control like that. And those things will be quicker in that way. Like, instead of having to tell it I think some things like just adjusting a corner radius or making tweaks, like there should be some type of instant visual editor in here. I think it would be good if they could combine sort of the AI with the visual editing sides, because I would like to just make things. This is why I do actually feel like if there was a way for sort of Lovable and Webflow to have a baby, that would be really cool, because I can see elements where I would use an AI tool like Lovable to create parts of my site, but I wouldn't necessarily build things out like this in design. Maybe I would, because Made in Webflow is great for that. Like, if I use Made in Webflow, I can find a navigation style that works, drop into my project and just tweak and change everything, which I actually quite enjoy doing. And I actually think that's better than just telling it what to do from scratch, because you can sort of remix a vision that someone's already got. And I suppose you can do that with Remix in Lovable already, but doesn't quite feel the same. But then also those tiny little tweaks, like just adding a little bit of space or color or background or hover state, like it's very quick and easy to do in here. Like, I can just hit a button and just, go straight to the different, hover state I'm looking for immediately and change these things. So, I think like things like this, where you just hover over and you can see that, in Webflow, you can just highlight an element and you can do stuff with that element. There's a whole pane here that you can work with. Like, I definitely think this is important to have, so you can just make adjustments on the fly. But if I could have a AI sort of tab bar that I can open up a bit like Cursor on Lovable, where I can say, hey, take this element, references the element, and then look at this element, references the element, and now do this. And it creates a function or a feature that can kind of do that. That would be really interesting for me. I think that's probably something more that I would benefit from. But I can definitely see why Lovable is valuable if you're trying to create something and you don't have access to a designer, you don't know how to design. Maybe you have some sort of vision in your mind already, or you've got a template you're remixing from Lovable already. I can see how you do that. But personally, as a designer, I can't see myself getting lost in this per se. But I think, honestly, that's because I have a love for design and the details, and I enjoy building things out in something like Webflow and working through the details. So yeah, maybe I need a little bit more like kind of playtime in Lovable, but I think just on first reaction, I can see that that's probably some of the limiting factors and where I feel a little bit like I need to be able to have a bit more like creative control. Though I can see obviously being very valuable for people that aren't necessarily designers. But then you have like this development element to it where you have the code side, which is useless, not useless of course, but like not really, if you can't design, then there's quite a reasonable chance that you probably don't know how to develop a code as well. So is this stuff just like, you know, like some of these functions just added frustration, like using GitHub and Supabase? Like, you know, is it more technical things you have to overcome? Is it more for developers who want to create design to, you know, put their work on? But then you'd use something like VO for that, wouldn't you? Because VO is probably quite good at generating UI. If you're a developer, I'll probably use VO for that purpose. But as a designer, I just can't get my head around it, man, and why you would use this over something like a Webflow. Even Framer, by the way, I'm not a big fan of. But I'm trying to give it a fair analysis where I feel like I would use it again. But I think just based on using it with the skills that I have, I can't see myself coming back and playing around with this. And I'm trying to pinpoint, you know, what type of customer this does target. And clearly there are a lot of customers because many people are using it and it's very popular. But I wonder what that psyche is like. It would be interesting to actually speak to people that use Lovable and how they use it and see them using it, because that might open my eyes up a bit more. But just based on my initial use case, I can feel it being a bit more of a friction and frustrating. You know, maybe that's just the state of where AI is a lot right now. But in general, the fact that you can do this, even from where we've come from with AI to now, is phenomenal. Like, it's only going to get better. So I can imagine these things just getting more and more immersive. I can imagine Webflow having AI tools and maybe Lovable allowing you to do a bit more kind of tweaking. But I love that in Webflow, you can, I'm bookmarking this. In Webflow, you can just sort of, you know, open up the CMS here, and you can have your own database. You can start working with that, which is really cool. And it gives you everything. So yeah, man, I'm not sure. I'm not quite bought on it. I want it to be a bit more blown away. Maybe my expectations are high because I'm a designer and I want to just be impressed straight away. But I do like the fact that the things that are possible with Lovable are interesting. Like, clearly you can do some really cool things. Like, if people are able to build these type of applications and, you know, functionalities with Lovable, clearly it's great, you know, and there's obviously some, you know, huge advantage to it, especially being able to actually build applications that can do things as well. So I suppose, yeah, if you're actually trying to build an application like a invoicing template that you're going to go and sell as like a micro SaaS service or something, I can definitely see where Lovable would probably play a stronger use in that case, as opposed to Webflow, where you'd have to build things out. Maybe it would be interesting to actually build an application in Webflow and build it in Lovable and see what it looks like. But I think in terms of the process, that's where I'm kind of a bit conflicted, because the process of actually designing and building something takes time and requires you to enjoy the process, I think. And when I'm building in Webflow or when I'm designing, the actual process of going through it allows me to flex my creative muscles. You know, I can put some music on, I can be in a bit of a vibe, I can just like create things, I can see how it's working. It's like, again, like cooking. It's something that's quite hard to explain, but it's, you know, it's a feeling. And I think like actually designing things yourself gives you that, as opposed to just telling an AI system to do it. So yeah, not absolutely sold myself personally. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on how you're using Lovable. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to, see how you guys are using it. And if someone wants to jump on and do a demo with me and show me how they're using it, then maybe we can do that as well. So yeah, that's my initial takes of Lovable, just looking at it from first time signing up and using it as a designer. But yeah, if you guys like this video, let me know. And I'll be happy to, you know, maybe review other AI products for the first time as well. This could be pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Teaching the world what they need to know. This is your show, The Prompt Show.